Welcome to Cover Book Meet. I'm your host, Roger Nichols. Our guest today has been a friend since he walked into the Dallas Chronicle in 2008 with a sheaf of cartoons under his hand and a smile on his face. And he talked our notoriously stingy editor into running his single panel cartoon every day, which we did until the paper folded back in March of 2020.
What a
But
sad day that was.
it was indeed. A lot of papers went down as a result of COVID cutting First thing everybody did was cut advertising, and then they said, "Well, we can't keep it going without the advertising." So anyway, but you still have 400 newspapers around the world that are carrying the wonderful single panel cartoon Rubes. And the reason we're talking to you today is you have put out the latest in a long string of wonderful collections of those, and this one is called Twisted Pop Culture. So, I try to do the share screen thing and show people what it looks like. Tell me a little bit about how this one came about.
Well, over the years, I have made references to all sorts of pop culture icons. I don't know whether it's songs or movies or radio or events such as the end of the world in 2012, the Mayan calendar, because essentially we live in a pop culture world. If there's anything the West does fantastically well, exporting pop culture. And of course, I'm influenced by that, as anyone is. And as soon as anything becomes part of our culture, it almost instantly becomes part of pop culture. I mean, for example, like the cartoon you're showing here, the world was supposed to end according to the Mayan calendar, the pop culture version anyway, which in 2012, of course, it didn't end, but that didn't stop it from becoming like this big meme of that year, of 2012 now, and it still is part of our pop culture. As soon as Disney makes a movie about anything, it's pop culture. It's, and we've been you can go back as far as like, how long do you want to go back to the early part of, movie making, where the original 10 Commandments movie was from the late 20s, the black and white with Cecil B. DeMille. So that became part of pop culture. So ancient Egypt is part of pop culture. Ancient aliens, if you are into that sort of thing, are
Right.
part of pop culture. So and like, let's say, we have songs, movies, TV, just about anything.
Here's another aspect of pop culture that appeals to people of a certain age, one of them being mine.
Well, mine as well. And I grew up listening to The Who and Led Zeppelin, and as anyone would in the 70s, late 60s into the 70s. And of course, this is going to touch on, two iconic rock bands, two of the biggest of all time. And of course, finding a way to blend that into, drawing animals. I like drawing animals. So if I can take owls and stick them in there, it's almost like an Abbott and Costello, another pop culture reference, like who's on first? Oh, this is who Zeppelin.
Yeah.
So you see their little eyes pop way open in the second panel there.
Right. And that's the other thing that I find is another little tiny trick that you use. The final owl is slightly different color than the other three, just to set him off a bit.
Right. That wasn't a mistake.
Uh,
No,
no, I
yeah.
assume that was intentional on your
It
part.
wasn't. I colored each one of these cartoons. There's a colorist that did a lot of stuff prior to this, but I enhanced or changed whatever I wanted to make for the book itself.
Okay. Let's take a look at this one. To me, is a masterpiece of timing. The way you've laid it out so their eye follows it.
Well, you remember boom boxes?
Oh yeah.
So it's like, of course, my dad had a business. He worked in Hollywood for Max Factor, the cosmetics company, in their advertising division. And after Max Factor got bought out by Revlon, another giant in the industry that's still around, he started this promotional company. And for some reason, we got a whole stack of, I think it was Hot Buttered Soul. I'm not sure if that was the album Shaft was on. Now it's got to be. You would know that, right?
Yes, and
Was
it
it?
is. Yes.
Okay, good. Well, we had a whole bunch of them. We mailed them out. And so, of course, we played the heck out of Shaft
Yeah.
because it was such a cool, it's such an iconic song of that era. And so that honestly, doing song lyrics are some of the most fun that I have fun with when I put them into cartoons
Yeah,
because
and
it's
again, I have
it,
several of them here tonight to talk about. But the thing I was going to point out is, you know how to take the person's eye and direct it so they read it in the right order to get the punchline on it. I just think that's fascinating how that's organized.
well, it's my closest I'm ever going to get to directing movies. I have one frame that I can direct,
Hmm.
and so you have to make the most of that little tiny frame in the paper or online.
Yeah, it's
And you want to, I'm, my philosophy. You got to make it interesting, visually interesting for the reader. Otherwise, talking heads are just boring.
yeah.
Not that we're boring here,
No, no,
but
that
I
would
mean
never take
boring in
place.
cartoons.
But
Yeah.
the fact that he has a rather obvious crack visible as well is just another little touch that you put in there. It's a character thing. The goatee,
Well,
the tennies, yeah,
well, and you see, I mean, it's that still goes on. I saw a guy walking down crossing the street the other day, and his pants were falling off. So this has
yeah.
stayed still culturally relevant.
It has indeed. Well, let's see what other things we pulled out here. This was my wife's favorite of the whole book. I want to tell you.
Well, she has excellent taste.
Yes, she does, and the fact that you reference the huge, popular movie with an actual return is part of your play on words. You take two different meanings of return in this aspect.
Like, well, exactly. So the more I like to layer the cartoons, and if I can layer a few more layers in on top, just it adds that much more fun for me. I hate getting bored drawing the same thing, so that's why it changes every day. Terrible from a merchandising point of view. I should have done a cat or a dog or something.
That's right.
But
You
so
get some of Garfield's revenues would have been nice, but
would have been nice. But
yeah. But and we
so
should
yeah,
we should point out to people who are maybe not familiar with the particular Rubes cartoon is that you don't have a standard set of characters that you do all over the place with animals, with people, with aliens, anywhere through time and space. Basically, with Leigh Rubin is might
it's
be the title of your next one. So
I like that title. It's a. Can you write the forward?
yeah, happy to
I
do that.
like that. I like that title a lot. Yeah, it's wide open. It's universal,
Okay.
so to speak. It's yes, this is one of my favorites, just because it's a big old bubbly knockoff on a World War II bomber,
Right.
essentially.
And there is, and one of the themes that I came on running through the book was that there is an awareness of the entire cartoon universe out here, and I'm thinking particularly of the Warner Brothers cartoons, and particularly the Roadrunners, where the Acme Company has not been good to the coyote over the years.
Yeah, but that's the only place he can get his supplies. And this is, of course, we know that they also deliver pianos. Particularly though, they're usually grand pianos, but I liked the upright was easier for me to draw, and it looked better coming out of that rectangular
Yes.
slot. And I just saw a movie, I don't know, a couple days ago where a piano gets dropped on somebody's head. I mean,
Really?
and it's a new movie,
Oh,
so they're still using this gag.
well,
Uh,
yeah. The classics have been around forever, and that's the reason they're the classics. Um, One of the aspects you do, sometimes you play with the words, sometimes you just quote the words exactly as they are in the song and see how the song came about. And I thought this was a really nice one for those of us who very fondly remember the fact that unfortunately it came out just after he passed away and went to
right,
number
right.
one.
Well, it's a fantastic song. I mean, and it's so catchy and still relevant. Uh, what I don't know what else to say. Yeah, you just
Yeah,
quote it and you just imagine what was the inspiration
yeah.
for the song. Now, obviously, this was probably not the inspiration for the song,
It may have been
but
his rent payment was due. That may have been the inspiration too.
could have
Sometimes.
been. I guess I could Wikipedia that and look it up, but
Yeah.
and sometimes I will. I'll go deeper in and try to make sure that you're referencing something right or you're quoting the proper words. I've done a few like that
Uh-huh.
lately that are not in the book. They're pop culture ones that I really want to get the wording right
Oh
because
yeah.
nowadays people call you out if you're off by a comma.
Oh yes, oh yes. I know that the edit police are out there. Here's another one that is one of my all-time favorite songs by a group called Steelers Wheel, which featured Jerry Rafferty. Had a big hit with what was the name of that song again? Street? Yeah,
Oh, Baker?
Baker Street.
No,
Yeah,
was it?
yeah, it was
Was it?
Baker Street. Yeah, with a
Uh,
huge saxophone. Anyway, this is another line from that song, and it quotes the title, and it's also a classic desert island gag in
It's a
triplicate, if you were.
which I really try to not to do desert island gags, uh, but this one it had to be. And also, if you notice, which I'm sure you did, I didn't put the words to the song that reference the actual song. I let the reader contribute, and that's one of the things I really enjoy doing is let the reader contribute from their own experience, which is what makes it more rewarding for the reader. Whoever is going to be the ultimate consumer of the cartoon, they can fill in the blank.
Right, right.
Because, we all know that cartoon readers are the smartest readers.
Absolutely, absolutely. And here's an example of taking the lyrics with a pun in it as well. And I love the fact that you've got all of the things reminding us of a Frank Sinatra type guy with a cigarette and a hat and the tie loose and everything, sitting on a stool, as if he's at the Flamingo in Vegas back in what 1957 or.
It's just, I know. I, you can't go wrong with a really good pun,
Yes.
And one thing I have another rule: don't be overdrawn and under funny. There's no background here. It's just
Yeah.
yellow.
Yeah.
I don't need it. I want total focus on the character.
Yeah, and that's a good point because you're very good about picking backgrounds. I picked this one because it's very meta. It seems to me combined King Kong, the Chiquita brand advertising, which has been forever, and probably also an inspiration a bit from the Wienermobile because of the shape. And it
I
just
hadn't
says the
thought of
people
that.
for it. Yeah,
Yeah, this is there's King Kong. They're usually little biplanes
yeah,
shooting at them. No, and you probably know that the actual antenna on the Empire State Building was a docking originally made to make the Empire State Building the tallest building in the world, but it's also a docking port for Zeppelins.
yes, yes.
So so this would almost work, although it's a blimp, not a Zeppelin. I know
Well,
there's a difference.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And I forget what it is. I think one has a rigid frame or something.
right, right.
Yeah.
Dirigibles.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what other fun things we can have.
Oh, okay. So
Now, if
you
you
picked the one with the most pop culture references I think I've ever worked into a gag that have to do with horses.
and this again, we talk about meta. Here you have Lone Ranger's horse, Roy Rogers' horse, and the talking horse, Mr. Ed, and then you don't even have anything that directly indicates the song you're referencing, but people pick up it's the horse with no name by America.
That's right. The well, the real hint there was the chart topper in '72.
Yeah,
So
but it's I don't know.
work for those gags. I want
Yes.
people working for those gags.
What is that?
If I have to work, they should have to work. That's my attitude.
Exactly. And you also break the fourth wall commonly as well. And reminding them this is a still photo, it's not an animation. That's brilliant.
I'm limited budget wise to animation in physical newspapers.
Yes. So the medium doesn't support it that well.
Now, if we make that into an NFT somehow, that'd be nice that it's actually falling.
Yeah. And then there's a pun that involves the Star Trek universe here. I, again, timing. You look at the first one and then drop down. Oh, it's a joke grenade that goes off in your face, as it were.
I joke. I like that. And no, there are no red shirts in this.
No,
I'm
no,
pointing that out.
that's right. As we all know in Star Trek lore, if you do not want to be a red shirt on the away team, because you will not come back. So,
That's right. No guest appearances on another show. Oh yes. Well, okay. So
Yeah.
If you notice, my brother contributed heavily to this gag. His name was down there. So shout
Oh,
out to my brother.
yes.
Um, I this thing we worked together at my dad's print shop for years, and of course I would come up with stupid puns and ideas, and I was thinking more Mickey Mouse with some kind of a prehistoric club, and he I'm guessing he must have said sandwich, and I thought, oh, that's just perfect.
Yes. Yes, it is. And
So
it's interesting to me that you don't get pushback from Disney on this because for years he was incredibly protective, or the company was. Um,
shh,
oh, all right. We'll just move right along here.
no.
And here's another meta one. You're talking about idioms and homonyms and just having lots of fun. And again, the way you read it in the order, you go, oh, one, two, three, oh, get it.
There's really got to be a rhythm if you're going to work it like this. You know, that rule of three, and I'm not sure that it's not a three panel, but you have to work the word bubbles so they're going to read in the proper order, so the ultimate reader will get the joke. And I did have people actually emailing me or tweeting me on this. They didn't get it, although a lot did.
Uh-huh.
Especially people that are into grammar really got it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Which was a lot of fun. But then I just had to explain, oh, it's a kid. There's all the hints. The kid going into the candy store.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know. A lot of
it's
fun.
sometimes you can lead them there, but they can't think. But what I say. And another aspect that's a lot of us Spoonerisms, which were Reverend Spooner, who famously said things that are occupying the wrong pie instead of occupying the wrong pew. And you got this one in here. And I think the expressions on both the eagle and the squirrel and the fan squirrels up there are just priceless. You really nailed it.
Well, it's just like you're zooming right in on them. And the eagles are, birds of prey never look like they're having a good time. They're
No,
always serious, very serious.
maybe even angry about something,
Yeah, they're
annoyed.
they're
And then there's a whole story behind this one. Um, you talk about a popular campaign at the time from the Milk Producers Board, but that led to something interesting happening to you, as I recall.
well, that is right. This is one of those times. This is what, in the mid '90s, whenever this was actually originally created, and I remember sitting at this very desk in a different home, thinking, I don't have an idea for a cartoon. I need to come up with an idea for a cartoon because I needed to make a deadline, and I didn't know what I was going to do, and I was getting very frustrated. So I put the pencil down and decided to go to the grocery store. And I'm walking up and down the aisles of the grocery store, and I come to the cookie aisle, and sticking out on one of those little tiny little, I don't know, cross promotional placards, not can be any bigger than this big. It said "Got milk" in the cookie aisles, and I thought, oh my god, it just the visual just hit me
Yeah.
like right away. So I finished up, went home, and drew this, and
And
then from there it went on to become the side of a. This actually went up to be 40 by 60 feet because we licensed it to the Got Milk people in San Francisco. So it became this 40 by 60 feet poster on the side of a building
yeah,
for about 6 weeks.
amazing, amazing
That was a lot
stuff.
of fun.
And then again, the expressions tell the story. The poor cow is, and the burglar seems pretty happy about the whole thing. Um, and this, no words are needed in this one.
No, can you see this? I guess you can see the salt. It's a little funny in this image.
Yeah, there is
But
salt coming up. It's the classic Morton's, and their slogan forever and ever has been, "When it rains, it pours," meaning that
it
salt
does.
doesn't clump up. Well, the fact that you've taken this classic ad campaign and done the thing about salting slugs or snails, as it were in this case, and you did it without a single word. And I just wanted to make a close at the expression on "That's a happy snail" because it's protected
Very,
from the salt falling down by the
yeah,
umbrella.
very happy snail.
Yeah. Yes. Well, now I need to stop sharing here and we can talk. I hope that was helpful, or hope you found that amusing to look at some of the ones. These are just a few of the many in the book.
There
Yeah,
we go.
yeah,
It
and
that's the biggest collection yet. Well over 300 gags are in that one.
it is, and it's a book with some heft to it.
It'll hold down your coffee table.
It'll keep it from floating up to the ceiling. That's all right. So, how long does it take you to put together a book like this?
This book spans almost back to when I started.
Hmm.
I mean, to the year that it was just published late last year, last
Uh,
November it came out. There are cartoons that I pretty much go back to 19 into the early 80s, mid to
I saw
early
some
80s.
classics there. Yes, yeah, yeah, and the
Well,
Got Milk
aren't
one.
they all?
They're all are classics.
No, but I mean, yeah, seriously, I really curated this collection, and I was honestly, I had enough. I bet I could have put another 200 gags in there,
Yeah,
and it just kind of breaks my heart. Oh, that one would have been so good. Oh well, another
but you
book.
but you got yeah another book. How many books have you got out? I know a bunch of them, but have you counted lately?
I probably a couple dozen.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and some of them are specialized and deals about your penchant for cows, for instance, has been emphasized, and cats and dogs and various other things.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Have you had a subject that you didn't think you could tackle? I mean, you're pretty twisted in some ways, but it has to be within boundaries.
Well, it definitely has to be within boundaries. There's no there's subjects these days that you can't touch.
Yeah.
That used to be totally like nobody gave it a second thought, but as our culture has become more sensitive to certain segments of our culture or individuals of our culture have gotten more sensitive, like, I have to rethink stuff. And in fact, the syndicate that I work with, and I've worked with since 1989, um, they actually have a policy now. That Got Milk cartoon I couldn't run unless I also offer a substitute. Anything with a gun in it,
Oh, okay.
you have to offer a substitute. So it's up to the editor of any particular publication whether they want to run it or
Uh,
not. Same goes with drinking. Which, do you know what, today's cartoon actually has a Mai Tai mentioned in it?
uh,
Just as an aside.
yeah.
Nobody caught that one. Oh
Oh,
well.
oh well. Yes. Yeah.
It's you just have to be very I don't know, clever is the right way. You have to be sneaky is not, I don't know the right word. Yeah, help me out. You have to be delicate
Deft.
and how you deft. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
On how you work certain subjects in.
Yeah. Indeed. Indeed. Um, where does it go from here? Do you have a long arching goal like, oh, I'm going to quit when I get 100,000 cartoons or something like that?
Oh, I don't think I'm going to make it to 100,000
Yeah.
cartoons. I mean, I don't even know what I'm pushing now, 14,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's not going to happen unless I live to be like 300 or something.
Well, you never know. Things
I
are
don't
things.
want to live to be 300. I
No.
don't think I want to live that.
Yeah.
I'm working on that television show with my
Hmm.
partner.
Let's mention that for folks so that
Sure.
hopefully they can help speed the process along. Call up your
Sure.
nearest personal friend who owns a network and say, talk
Yeah.
to these guys.
Talk to these guys. Hello, Netflix. Hey, get these guys on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Drawing Inspiration, and my partner Ryan Johnson put that in. You can put that in the show notes if you care.
Yeah.
But we have our he is a prop manufacturer for I call him a prop wizard because he can make anything pretty much for Hollywood, whether it's TV, movies, stage, whatever you need. And I draw cartoons, and we teamed up to do, because we both have weird jobs, and our job is to go behind the scenes and find out what other creative people do in any field, whether it's medical or technological or musical or you name it, because there's, automotive design, it doesn't matter. And so we have a whole list of various places, companies, people we'd like to visit, and it's very open-ended because I mean creativity's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's what drives society forward. So that's the whole goal, and it's going to be fun because there's a little bit of slapstick because I'm in it, and
Yeah.
Ryan gets to break some of his bottles over my head, and I get to draw cartoons that tie in with the subject.
Why
Uh,
not? It'll
yeah,
be
I know.
fabulous. And the fact that you've done a lot of this over the years, you're very comfortable with what you do.
Yeah, as long as my body holds out, I'm absolutely fine.
Great. Well,
Look, and it's still holding out. Here I am.
I'm so glad to hear about that, and so are your many fans. Anything that we haven't touched on, you want to make sure our listeners know about you and the new book, Twisted Pop Culture.
Well, you know where you can probably get it, or you can mention it. It's
Hmm.
Pediment Publishing. You know, they're at a Battleground, Washington. I just want to mention that.
That's right, in just over the hill from
So
where I am right
they're
now.
they're not they're not very far from you at all.
Yeah,
And if they run it, it was a pretty limited print run because originally it's meant for I know they printed more, but it was for the McClatchy newspaper chain
hmm,
because that's who teamed up with it. But then again, I guess we can always print more.
yeah. If there's a
You know,
demand. So
if there's a demand.
once again, let's say go to your favorite bookstore and say if they don't have that, tell them to order it right now.
That's true. You can also order it from Amazon, by the way. And there is an earlier version of that, a much smaller square
Hmm.
paperback version
Yeah.
of it. But this is the premier gift edition.
That's right. And as we record this, St. Patrick's Day is not that far away, and what better thing to some great humor.
Well, there is the Lucky Charms guy in the book. So, the little leprechaun.
Yes, I've forgotten about that. You're right.
Well, he mixed in with Clint Eastwood. So,
Do you feel lucky? Yes.
I,
Oh, our guest today has been Leigh Rubin. The cartoon is Rubes. The book is the Rubes Twisted Pop Culture, which is the only way he flies. Hey, thanks so much for being with us today.
thanks, Roger. This is great. Appreciate it.